Hello and welcome to another video. Today you join me as we head over to the Dean Forest Railway for the 2025 Diesel Gala. Now you may be wondering why we're starting this video in the car, but I thought I'd get the introductions out of the way so we get to listen to all those diesel locos in their glory later on. Now the DFR runs for about 4.5 miles from Lydney Junction through to Parkend, and here we are about to go over Lydney Town Crossing on our way to Norchard Station. Now while Norchard may be in the middle of the line, it's where you'll find the large car park, the ticket office, a museum and the station cafe, so you can get those all important bacon baps and cup of coffees before you get on the train. We're supposed to have 4 locomotives rostered today, a Class 50 and a Class 55 that are visiting the railway, and a Class 08 and a Class 09 that are normally stationed here. But the day starts when the 08 fails and has to be shunted out of the way before the services can begin. Now I've already released a video of this trip to the Dean Forest Railway, and if you want to watch that full line ride from Parkend to Lydney Junction, I'll leave a card up in the top corner. Now while we didn't get to see this Class 08 information today, after shunting it to the pit they were able to repair it, and it was back out on the Sunday for the second day of the Gala. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't join any of these services so far today, it's because by this point I'd realised I'd left something in the car. So while waiting for the services to return from Lydney Junction, we had a quick look around Norchard Station. Now, what I haven't said is that I also volunteer at this railway. I'm a trainee guard and signalman, and also a crossing keeper at one of the stations in between. Now, due to some bad health, I haven't actually volunteered for about a year now, but I want to get back as soon as possible. And who wouldn't want to volunteer at a railway with such amazing scenery? Now, we're going to watch one of the services come back in from Lydney Junction, and then we're going to board the second before heading up to Parkend. Welcome to Whitecroft Station. Now, this is where you'll sometimes find me on the crossing. Now, unusually for a lot of heritage railways, there's 4 crossings on this line, 2 manual, including this one here at Whitecroft, 1 semi-automatic and 1 automatic. And welcome to Parkend Station. Now we've arrived at the other end of the line, and because we have 2 trains in service today, we don't have long to look around before heading back the other way. Now on the way back we're going to ride on the veranda of the brake van, so we're going to get some great shots going around those curves of the Class 50. Now before we board, let's get some shots of the Class 55. Deltics have to be one of my favourite locomotives, and I've actually been guard behind this engine on the Bluebell Railway. Now because we're riding on the veranda, we do get to take some shots that we wouldn't normally get to take, and if you ever get a chance to ride in a brake van on the Heritage Line, I'd highly recommend it. And welcome to Lydney Junction. Now being only 4.5 miles, it doesn't take long to reach the other end of the line, and given some of the beauty of the scenery you're passing through, it's a shame it doesn't last a little bit longer. As you can probably tell from those clouds, it does start to rain on this day, and if you want to see what it looks like riding on a veranda when it's completely pouring down, then I'd recommend checking out my full line ride. Now we're about to head over the second manual crossing on this line, and it's the one that we passed over on our way to Norchard Station at the start of this video. Welcome back to Parkend Station. Now, for a long time the points here at this station were controlled by a ground frame that we're going to pass in a second on the left hand side. Now, while the signal box was erected in 2000, it took until 2022, after an 8-year project, to get it recommissioned. Now, the station building on the left hand side is actually the original goods shed, and there are plans to open it as a museum in the future. At this point you may have spotted my error. Now, that in front of us is another set of manual crossing gates, which brings the total up to 3. Now, today they're not in use as we're being top and tailed, but normally the locomotive would pull forward past this crossing to run around. Now, it's at this point where I've secured my spot on the veranda for the return journey, and that is the journey you get to see in my full line ride. Now, for now we get to stare rather awkwardly at a member of the Class 50 train crew and one of the driver conductors from the DFR. Now, aside from getting very wet thanks to all this rain while out on the veranda, the Class 50 does seem to struggle a little bit when we leave Norchard Station. And that's it. Thanks for joining me on this visit to the Dean Forest Railway for their 2025 Diesel Gala. Now at this point I head back on board and we go back to Norchard where I've left the car. Now just to leave you with some parting scenery, we do get to see a little bit of the journey back to Norchard Station, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.
Silver car and the firemen were shouting at the guy in the Volvo that he shouldn't have a driver's license. Look at those lovely markers.
There's a face on it.
Yeah, partner mark on it.
I mean, that's about, if it was up with Willie, they'd be running.
Yeah, the office.
Western Jazz on this one.
Yeah, they do.
What about them coaches that just standing aside? Aren't they like
Oh, well, the ones where we were converted to like sleepers.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, they never have.
Yeah, they just look like they're writing.
The GWR picture they have is really nice. How many do you have?
Start rating was a Tuesday or a Wednesday, so I did it on the Monday.
My neck is written and it's a skill. There, there.
I mean, it was more that there was sort of some bits that had just sort of, it just untold. Whereas